Brave woman, raising brave children. Proudly an immigrant mom, bow to the immigrant mom. Brave woman, raising brave children. Proudly an immigrant mom, bow to the immigrant mom. Brave woman.
I'm able to still go through this process.
Brave woman, raising brave children. Proudly an immigrant mom, bow to the immigrant mom. Brave woman, raising brave children. Proudly an immigrant mom, bow to the immigrant mom. Brave woman.
I'm able to still go through this process.
Brave woman, raising brave children. Proudly an immigrant mom, bow to the immigrant mom. Brave woman, raising brave children. Proudly an immigrant mom, bow to the immigrant mom.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Immigrant Mom Show. This is your humble host, Ixtel Mba Achadobgima. Welcome to once again another session of the Immigrant Mom Show. I am glad that you are joining. For those who are going to be watching after this is aired live, thank you so much for stopping by. We have a show. We have a guest today, and we have an interesting story as always to go over. If this is your first time joining the Immigrant Mom, my name is Ixtel Mbaacha Dobgima. I am the founder. The Immigrant Mom is an organization supporting mothers who are raising children in a country they did not grow up in. Well, you know the drill. We're going to give it a couple of minutes so that we can all share, so a lot more people can join, because we have just too much good to keep it to ourselves, okay? And if you're joining, please let me know where you're watching from. You know, I love to give shout outs. I love to acknowledge your presence. I love to, recognize you for following, for supporting, for sharing, so other women can benefit from the wonderful work that the Immigrant Mom is doing. So let's give it a few minutes. I would share a song that I love, like I normally do, so we can share with our friends and more people can join us. All right.
Everything you do is good. You are God. You are God. Everything you do is good. You are God. You are God alone. You have the final word is here and here. Dependable. You have the final word. Your word is here and here. Dependable. See everything you do. You are God. You are not alone. Everything you do, you
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Immigrant Mom Show. If you're joining for the first time, this is Ixtel Mbacha Dobgimar, your host. We have yet again another session to talk about the immigrant mother's story. Please go ahead and share, invite your sister, invite your family members, invite your mom to join us. Let's talk about, the immigrant mother's experience. I know that there's kind of a delay, but with technology, it kind of catches up with time. So let me know if you cannot hear me, and we'll try to resolve what's going on. Let's see. Bjorn, can you hear me all right? I just need a thumbs up to know that we're live, we're good, we're ready to start. Okay, awesome, awesome. I see that. Thank you guys for joining. Where are you joining from? It's Thursday. It's been a while since we had one of these sessions on Thursday, but I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be here, facilitating through this platform for mothers to share their story, for women to come on here and encourage each other, because we know that it is daunting to raise children in a country that you didn't grow up in, because there are a lot of things that can be in our blind spot and that we would not know until we hear another woman talk about her experience. And that is the power of what we do. I encourage every woman who is watching that if you have a story, an experience, a skill, something that you have in your personal life that you believe has been able to launch you forward, please come on and share that, because you never know who needs the information, who needs to hear your story, who will be so encouraged by what you share to be able to make a move that would change their life. So don't be shy. It's just a conversation with Ixtel, and we make it very, very friendly, and you'll be able to share your story with as many people as possible. Well, without further ado, let's get into the story that we have for today. Our guest on the show today is Biodun Dapherede. She is the mom of two kids. She's based in New Jersey. For some reason, I thought she was based in Canada, but she's not based in Canada. Hi, Rusi. Thank you for joining. She's not based in Canada. She's actually based in New Jersey. She's going to tell us a lot about her story, how she was in a long distance marriage. A lot of immigrant mothers face that, right? She was in a long distance marriage. She had two kids and had to shuffle between, I believe, different continents or different countries. And she's going to tell us about how she found her purpose, even though it was different from what everybody around her, for good reason, thought she should be doing. I'll let her introduce herself even more. Please welcome. Hi, Iya. Iya is hailing you, Biodun. She's saying Jersey girl over here. Awesome. Hi, Biodun. Welcome to the Immigrant Mom Show. This is your second time on this platform. We had you the first time to talk about how moms can have the talk with their black sons, because you're a mom of sons. But today we're having you on a whole different limelight, and I really appreciate you for coming on to share your story with us. I don't take it for granted. Without further ado, please introduce yourself so the audience can get to know you a bit more. You are muted.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Hi, immigrant moms. Hi, friends of immigrant moms and allies. Hi, Excel. I'm so happy to be here. Yes, second time. And I'm still so blessed because you were a speaker at the Immigrant Mindset Conference, and everyone still talks about it.
Wow.
So, hi, Iya. I hope I pronounced that properly. I have to pronounce that properly. Yes, Jersey girl here. Hi, Festus. Hi, everyone. So yes, my name is Biodun Dapherede, and I'm an immigrant mom, like Excel shared. And yes, the last time I was on, we got to have the talk, and it's so funny because we got to have the talk again today.
Oh,
But
wow.
I mean, with my son again, because it happens to be something that you constantly have.
Right.
So yeah, I'm an immigrant mom. I'm a wife. I have two boys. There's like 4 years between them. I have a lot of my hands in a lot of in a lot of pots. But if I were to sum it up, I would say I'm passionate about faith, about family, about immigrants and minority communities, and empowering these communities and these individuals to give their best and be at their best. So, yes, that's a summary.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that intro. Tell us where you're from and how your immigrant mom journey started. We all
Oh,
have our own unique stories, so maybe you can shed some light into what was that like for you.
okay. So I'm Nigerian. Uh, I like to make fun of it and say I'm very Nigerian because both my parents are from the same town in the same state of the same country. So I'm as Nigerian as it comes. Um, yes. So my the whole immigrant journey, I would say, started from my mom. So my mom, who happened to retire last year, she was a nurse all my life, and while she was in Nigeria as a nurse, she just felt really strongly like she wanted to experience nursing in other places, and she felt like she would see more and experience more, and she didn't want to just end her career in Nigeria. And so she decided to move, and my dad was supportive. It was like, okay, if that's what you want to do. And that's how it started. And she also felt we would be able to do more things, and it would just be a better experience for her children. And so that was how it started. And of course, for every other immigrant, I don't know, we all have different stories, but for anyone who's like a child in the situation, they know that it can take a while for it to happen. And so that
Yeah.
means that you are separated from, in my situation, my mom, who of course was like, as a female, who you would expect to be like in your life. So that
So your
separation
mom
began.
traveled before you did.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, she did. She was the first person to travel, and that was how it began. So, yes, I guess that's my story into even migrating in the first place. And then, becoming an immigrant mom, as you said, um, I was in a long distance marriage, which happened, I got married while I moved here, and then I got married.
Okay. So
And
let's
so
let's
this,
let's dig
Mhm.
into that a little bit because it's an experience that more a lot more people face,
Yeah.
they because of immigration, because of certain issues in their life, and not necessarily issues like problems, but because
Yeah.
of a specific circumstance, they happen to
Mhm.
be raising children away from their spouse, either commuting between continents and all of that. What was your situation and what brought about that?
Okay, so I met my husband while I was working at an organization in Nigeria.
Okay.
So it's a multinational, but we were doing different things, but the same organization. And so we met, we knew this was a thing, but then I had to relocate. But we already knew that, we're serious. And so eventually, so I would guess in my situation, I know this is kind of like a common thing right now. Like there's so many thoughts on long distance relationships, especially when one is in Africa and one is in the States. I've heard so many things.
Yeah.
But to be honest, in my situation, I wasn't worried
Mm-hmm.
because I trusted who I have.
Yeah.
Um, I know he's God fearing. I know he's all about like his bag and just focusing on that. And so I just, and I also knew that he I knew that there's only so much you can there's only so much distrust that you can allow before it ruins what you have.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to focus on my on my migration, like living in a new place and settling in. And he also was busy with work, and of course we'll do the calling and exchanging stories, and this is what happened, and video calls. It wasn't, I don't think tech was the way it is right now, but at least we had that. It's better than if we just had a phone, like some of our parents had, just a phone, right? So yeah.
Right, right. And trust is one of the issues. It's just one of the issues that exist or arise when a family is not all together in the same place. There is, the difficulty of, making the noun decision when you have children in the mix. There is, the issue of being technically a single mother, just using that term there to describe the reality of the everyday. What was it like for you? And what are some pain points that you can share with our audience today who will say, yes, Biodun gets me because he's walked a mile in those shoes?
Okay, so yes, I do know how it is to be apart from, you know, I would say to be apart from your other half, and to be apart from, especially when you have a baby. Even the experience of having a baby and the person not being there.
Was that your experience?
Oh yeah, of course, that was my experience. So, but I knew that no matter how much I wanted him to be there at that time, it wasn't something he was able to do, and I know that that meant everything to him, and that he it hurt him too, right? I had the blessing of having my parents. I remember the nurses having to almost carry my dad out of the out of the room, and just asking him to please excuse them. And so my mom was with me, and my dad was outside fuming and pacing, and people were asking him if his wife was okay, and he had to tell them that it was his daughter. It was very dramatic, but that's my dad. Yeah,
Right.
so but I know that my husband really wanted to be there, and it's something that he always says he missed and he wants to see. So yeah, there's that.
Right. So I, you know, it's it's a difficult thing for a lot of people who don't have community, right? Having
Yes.
that long distance, and in as much as we want to, talk about it like it was not as bad. It in the reality today for a lot of people is it's difficult. There are people that are having issues of trust in their marriage. There are other people who are, facing what is something that, if you can think back through memory lane that you can share, because I want from your story to be able to share something with somebody who can, hang on to those words since you have been through it, about how to get through what they currently are facing.
Yeah, so I would say even though I make my like having my kids, separate from my husband sound like fun, it wasn't fun at the time. It was very frustrating for me, especially because I had working parents. So it's not like, but in in my country, in my culture, right? There's something that we call a fourth trimester. And we all understand the importance of a fourth trimester, because we get that the next few months after a woman has a baby, she is to be taken care of,
Right.
all of the parts involved in having that baby. It's to be tended, she's to be fed certain kinds of food, which is of course farm to table, and she's supposed to, the baby is is taken care of. She's shown how to do certain things very gently. It's not the way it is that here the nurse just shows you how to bathe the baby once. They just like pam, 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 and you're off and you're back to your house. It's not, or people are coming in like every 10 minutes to come and ask you a question, like all of that wild stuff. It's not like that. So it can be very frustrating. There is also the reality of postpartum issues when many women have, especially immigrant women, have children. The fact that there's isolation, the friends that on the regular day would have called them and now another country away, there's like time differences. They feel so removed. And sometimes, depending on where you have the baby, there's a certain kind of, I would say, almost like lack of empathy
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
Mm-hmm.
towards moms, especially Black moms, that is almost jarring. So, as much as we struggle with trust, as if you're an immigrant, as much as I know it's hard to trust in a new place, if you belong to any community that you can ask for help, like this one, if you belong to any community that you can ask for help, like maybe your place of worship, it could be a church, it could be a mosque, wherever you can find someone who empathizes or who cares, please take advantage of that. One of our superpowers as immigrants is our ability to say, you know what, I don't know. You know what, I need help. Let's not be too proud to ask for help.
Yes.
When it is offered, please take it. And in the future, you pay it forward. So there's no need to be proud, right? Any help that I get, I believe I'm going to pay it forward in the future. So it's not a big deal. Thank you for your help. God bless you. And if I can help you in the future, I will not waste time and I will pay that forward as well. So if there's something I would say to an immigrant parent, because I know sometimes men are also involved in this. And on the men, it's even harder, right? Because there's this onus of I'm the protector, I'm the dad. There's so many things going on. But this is the immigrant mom show. So, okay.
Even though
But,
there are some immigrant dads, watching, but the point that you raised is really key, and I'd like to expound on it a little bit.
okay.
It's difficult to accept help from a stranger. It's difficult accepting help from someone in some cases, but it's
Mhm.
even more challenging when it's a stranger. And the mere fact that we are immigrants, the community that starts to come around us before they become the family and the friends, they will first be
Be
strangers.
strangers.
And so, it's okay, just like Biodun said, to reach out and say, hey, I am lonely. Do you know other mothers in the area that you can connect me with? Or is there somebody who is dealing with this that can give me more information? Right? Don't shy away from saying, I don't know, because the mere fact that we are immigrants, right? There's a lot that we don't know, and there's a lot that we don't know that we don't know. So
Yep.
the primary goal of a community like this is a safe place where we can admit what we don't know, where you can ask the darnest questions, where you can say, I'm in this situation, I don't know the way forward. And know that there are other people who have once been in a place where they did not know, now they know, and they can support you. I'm
Yeah.
looking at a comment here from
Yeah,
C.
I was going to talk about the comment, but yeah,
Yes.
I'll let you go
C
first.
says, I did long distance marriage. It lasted but failed when we moved in together. Such is life. Bjorn, about your experience, you did long distance. I don't know for how long. Maybe you can talk about how that was. What
Yeah.
was it like moving in together?
Okay. So I think the thing about long distance is from my experience, and I'm sorry to hear that, see, but I like the fact that it seems like he's not like mad from his comment. I don't know, but such is life. Sometimes life will throw curveballs that you're not expecting. From my experience, what I would say is if you're in a long distance marriage, every time you come back together, whether you're visiting each other, someone is passing through the night, for and going off to another country, which was like my situation sometimes. My husband would have to just like come, maybe drop off a child, go to another continent, not Africa, somewhere else for work. He's like, okay, I just came for the night, and the next morning, okay, bye. But every time you meet, when you're in a long distance marriage or relationship or something, while you're still living apart from each other, it's it, it's two-sided, because there's always that excitement, right? Like you're
Mhm.
with the person again, and so it's
Yeah.
exciting. But then it is having to learn the person all over again, because sometimes the person has changed. The person used to like some kind of food before, and now they don't like that food anymore and they like something else. Or the person used to sleep some kind of way and now it's different. Like there's just things change. And then for you who's in this country, you're changing. You might not realize
Mhm.
how much you've changed, but you've changed. Your mindset has changed. You're probably more independent. You might have gotten harder. Your shell might have gotten harder. So some things that would kind of like shake somebody from somewhere else, you'll be like, whatever, that's life, moving on. But the person is like, what do you mean that's life? Or the person is coming from maybe a communal place. You're now used to your throwing your jacket on and you're walking out quickly, and nobody's even, you're just carrying your children and you're walking. And the person is like, oh yeah, we have to call this auntie and that auntie. You're like, what auntie? Please, I don't have time. All of those little, they sound like small things, but you'll be amazed at how they can cause quarrels, right? But
Very,
but the
very,
moving in,
yeah.
part, I would say, is it's patience is very key. Patience is so important when it comes to moving in together for anyone, talk less of, because especially if the person who's coming is used to playing a certain role, gets into a country and maybe has challenges finding a job, has challenges finding new friends, maybe just finds out that people are different, treat people different, don't have that kind of loyalty that they're used to, or they're having financial issues. It can come out as maybe anger, it can come out as just all kinds of like emotions that they will need help with, right? And so just dealing with each other with patience, and just remembering, if I had to give advice, I would say always remember that you're not each other's enemies, because sometimes when things get hot, it can almost feel like the person is your enemy.
Right, right.
But just remembering that
Yeah.
you're not enemies to each other. You're together to be friends. Hi, Auntie Gladys. That's worship with Gladys. Just remembering that you're not enemies, and that if you can tough it out, if you can wait out the storm, when you guys work together, you will do amazing things. You just have to tough it out. If it's possible, if it's not something you cannot manage, I would say work on it. If you can get a counselor, whether in your community, if you can get someone who can help. Anyone who tells me that they have any such issues and they're in Texas, I always tell them there's the immigrant mom. Go meet yourself and go sort yourselves out. I don't have anything to say to you people. So
Oh man. The
yeah, that's
statistics in our community, reflect that a lot of the times with long distance relationships and long distance marriages, they usually hit a roadblock, a huge one. Some of them survive it and some of them don't. But the point that you raised, which, it's really great to, for people to think about more, is the fact that we change. As an immigrant mom living in a very independent, autonomous society, individualistic society, we don't realize how we very quickly move towards a me,
yes.
I mindset. And best believe it, something to think about. I'm not saying it is the reality for everybody, but if you are in this side of the world, if you're in America, America is not as a communal country as a lot of our countries that we have come from. And personally, I am very conscious of that, even in the way that I'm raising my children, because I can afford, thankfully, by God's grace, to give them individual rooms, but I choose not to because I want them to learn to live together. The fact that we can afford to give our children everything. If you have two, you can give them their own stuff, which is a good thing. But at the same time, keep it at the back of your mind that you want to raise your children to always be each other's keeper, to not
Yeah.
always have the mindset of this is mine, that is yours, and if it's important to you. But the point
Yeah.
that you raised about we changing, being very individualistic, really makes a lot of sense, and something that you can put your finger to while you're walking through your relationship if you guys have been apart for a long time. And thank you,
Yeah.
Biodun, for sharing that. That's very
You're
important,
welcome.
very, very vital. You talked about pressure. You mentioned in on coming onto the show a pressure that you experience about what your life was supposed to be as opposed to what you wanted. Can you talk a little bit about what that was? Shed some light. Let's know what pressure you faced.
Okay. So, I all my life, right? I've always been big into advocacy. I didn't know what it was then. I just know, my dad's friends and my parents' friends, they always used to say, oh, um, Biade is going to go fight for someone now. Maybe they see me stomping off outside the house. They'll be like, oh my God, there she goes. She's going to fight for someone. But it used to be like a joke. But as I started getting a bit older, my parents just believed I had to be a lawyer. There was nothing else, right? That was just their belief. And of course, then it was doctor, lawyer, or disgrace. We can add accountant, we can add engineer, but it was doctor or lawyer. So it was like, okay, you're going to be a lawyer because you're always looking for who to defend anyway. Just you might as well. And I wasn't against it, but at the same time, I knew what I liked. But I did not. I didn't. I just thought, okay, you do what your family wants you to do, right? And so it was always, and of course, when my guardian and counselor in high school, there are times when your guardian and counselor has to like speak with your parents and tell them, the path they think you are kind of more suited to follow and all of that. That was kind of what they chose for me. So by the time I was going to college and everything. The idea was, okay, she's going for her first degree and she'll go to law school, but she might as well wait and then, move. And then she can kind of prep for going to law school and do all the courses that she needs, get all the credits, blah, 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 blah. I knew by the time I was almost done with my first degree. I knew by my first year in college, my first degree, that I didn't want to be a lawyer. I knew it, but there was too much pressure to be able to like fully tell them I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. So I just like, okay, we're good. And I kept going. So by the time I got out of college, I started working, ended up in the banking industry, ended up in TV, did some radio writing, did all of that, and then had to move. And it was like, okay, you're here now, so law school. I was like, that ship has sailed. And so it became like a major issue. Like, what do you mean that ship has sailed? This is the best thing for you. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Just being a woman at that point and having people actually tell me, no, you don't really have options. It's either you're a nurse or you have to go to law school. And I'm like, both options don't sound nice to me. We have to find something else. And so, there was so much pressure um, when it came to my own career, which is funny. It's funny. So I guess maybe if an American hears that, it's funny to them. But my birth country, that's like the expected thing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't take decisions by yourself, all by yourself, right? Maybe it's changing now, but a normal saying that people used to use was, "Who have you seen doing that?" That was one saying.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was, "Who in our family has done that?" So if I look back now, It's almost like it's hard for you to step out of the box because you're always being pulled back by what people have. So you're basically having to do what people have done, which in itself is wild.
Right.
So
And that's a con of having a communal society.
communal,
There are
yeah,
pros and there are cons.
and their
And
cons,
that's one of the cons, right? Like, the pressure to
conform,
conform, the
yeah,
pressure to be like everybody. And a lot of people go through it. Let me break it down and even bring it into reality today. A lot of moms who come into the
mhm,
US have either had one person tell them there is no other career for you but nursing.
yes,
Like, if you agree with me, let me see this in the comments. If you came here and someone told you you have no other career but to be a nurse, just leave me a thumbs up or one. Let me see how many people had to go through that kind of pressure.
yeah,
It is only recently that there is now an introduction of IT. So it's now like, okay, you can be a nurse or you do a Scrum Master program or you do something
mhm,
into IT without any, regard for, and for good reason. They would say you can do a nurse, you can be a nurse because, X, Y, and Z, you'll get a job for sure. But the honest truth is, you don't have to be a
yeah,
nurse or do IT. But whatever it is that you have to be, you have to put in the work and you have to get
mhm.
knowledge. I would let Biodun share a little bit about how she was able to escape that pressure. And I would tell you my own story about how I became the lawyer and not the nurse everybody said that I should be. Bjorn, tell me, there was that pressure even here in America from Nigeria with your parents telling you what you needed to do, go to law school. What was your way out and how did you arrive at it?
Somebody said I almost slapped someone. It's hilarious. But the no, the irony with it was all the people who were telling me this, right, were all here with me in the States because my mom is a nurse. And like I said, my mom has been a nurse before I was born, right? So for her, it was like, oh, why don't you go into nursing and then you will do the legal part of nursing? It's very lucrative. She's like, oh, you can do, there's a way you like do, you go into nursing and then you go into law and then there's this way you, and I'm like, sounds nice. Sounds really nice. But this isn't what I wanted. Why at the same time I couldn't blame her because they're looking out for you. It's just they're thinking they don't want you to fall too much. They want you to be stable and to be okay. Right. So that there was that pressure. And then all her friends are nurses. Yeah, and I was just going to say that. There's so many people in, I don't even want to call any profession, but there's so many people doing things that they don't really like doing. And it hurts. So there's a period when you migrate, there's a period of survival. I call it the survival job. Please, if you're doing a survival job, don't let anybody make you ashamed of doing that. Don't even let anyone. You have to keep the lights on. You have to take care of your children. You have to do what it takes to bring your spouse. You have to do what it takes to take care of your aging parents. You do what you have to do. But then there's a period where you're like, okay, I'm stable. I'm getting information. I'm building my network. I'm making some money. Or it's time. I set a goal and it's time for me to, get into my thrive season. When it's time, don't let anyone hold you back either. That's the advice I would give. You have to do a survival job, whatever it is. I don't care. If you're packing boxes, it's okay. There's pride in what you're doing. If you don't pack those boxes won't arrive at my door. So God bless you. Thank you so much. Right. But when you know and you're feeling that nudge to move and do what God has called you to do, I have to bring God into this situation. And follow your purpose. You're feeling this need, like there's something you can do. Then you do what you have to do. You ask for help. For me, I knew what I didn't want to do, right? I knew what I didn't want to do. I wasn't completely sure that what I wanted to do was lucrative enough. So I started doing something that I had done in the country before I moved here. And I started working as a quality person in healthcare. So that's basically checking up on if the doctors and if patients are like completely okay with who they were sent, and quality concerns, but in healthcare. That's it's like an administration path. And then from there I started to segue into other things. But I that was like my how would they call it? My compromise. I don't want to be a nurse, but I need to do something to keep my skills sharp and to get used to the community, the working community, and all of that. And then from there, I started to bit by bit start to do what I knew was part of my purpose, which is ghostwriting for people, which is editing, which is doing book coaching, telling people how to publish, and just helping them with uh, author concerns. But I
Mhm.
didn't just say I'm not going to be a nurse, and so I'm just going to do this instead. Because whether I liked it or not, my parents were my community. And even though what they were saying, I didn't completely agree, I knew it was coming from a place of love, right? So
Right.
sometimes people are going to give you some advice. It's going to be exasperating, to be honest. But I would say people show concern in different ways. So
Right.
please, I
And
beg
I'm
you.
also going to add that, we have knowledge at our fingertips. We have
Yeah.
access to, or most of us, if you are watching this, you most likely have access to the internet. You have access to a phone and to a computer, and you'll be amazed at how much information is available for you. Be the kind of person that when they say there is a dead end, get to the dead end and confirm that it's a dead end.
It's a dead end. Wow.
Because the person that is standing at the corner may not see that there's a little path that was created that could lead you somewhere
Mm,
else. So
that's
if you turn
powerful.
around at that corner, you will never know what it would have been. So
Hmm.
apply yourself to knowledge. Don't take the easy way out. When I came here from South Korea, because I went to law school in South Korea, when I got here in 2011, everybody told me, let me not say everybody, I'll say most people told me that a career in nursing was the way to go. They told me that, a foreign trained lawyer like me, I would not be able to get into the legal field. And it's very, Biodun, I'll tell you this, you will get scared because you're thinking,
Of
these
course.
people know better than I do. They've been here longer than
Yes.
I have been.
Yeah.
If I insist on going my own route, and, I don't want people to say, I told you
Yeah, I
so.
told you so.
But with research, with knowledge comes confidence. Without knowledge, you're just going to be like, and at some point in time, give up. A lot of my friends, a lot of my classmates dropped their legal degrees, took on nursing, were not happy
Oh,
about it, and still, hopping, looking for the right career. Not everybody's meant to be a nurse. It's good enough for you to know that. Now that you know that, I want you to start to explore, what can I do? What do I have in my hands? I
hmm.
always say that. What do you have in your hands? What is it you're passionate about? What information can you get? Who can you be connected to? You just need another connection, a mentor, somebody who says, yes, I have done it, so they can help you out. A lot of the
Yeah.
people that come to me who have law degrees, please reach out. You can get into compliance. There are other areas of law you can do. There's
You can
AML.
do.
I can talk about this all day.
I'm sending somebody your way. I'm sending somebody your way from because of what you just said. Yeah.
Sure, like if you identify, I don't want to be a nurse, I don't want to do IT. There are ways in which we can consult together and figure out
Hmm.
what is available, what can
Yeah.
you do, what's in your hand. The other, you talked about ghostwriting, publishing. We want to learn a little more about what that is, because it seems it's your passion, it's something that
Yeah.
you love to do. Talk a little bit about it. If I want to write a book, are you the person I should look out for? What is
Yeah.
that?
I am definitely the person that you should be looking out for. But yeah, going back to what you said, and just to put a disclaimer, right? Please, I there's nothing wrong with nursing. I'm very proud to say that my mom was a nurse for almost more than over 50 years. But she loved what she did. So if it's something that you love, please, by all means, we need nurses and we need empathetic, good nurses. So if that is your calling, I beg you, do what do what you love. Do what you love. So speaking of ghostwriting, yes, I'm very passionate about helping people tell their stories, because to me everything is a story. I see things in stories. To be honest, everything we're doing right now is a story for me. There's always a story for me. And so I love to be part of people's storytelling. If it's books, if it's, blogging, if it's even scripting for a podcast, I love being part of storytelling, especially when it comes to two, I would say, kinds of demographic: people in ministry and immigrants. Because sometimes I find that people in ministry, they have like real stories to tell, like real messages that they have to put out, but knowing how to put it out is an issue. The kind of pressure that they have, because ministry is a lot, and then maybe you also have a full-time job plus a family. I cannot even imagine how you do it. It's so much. So that is like something I'm very passionate about, helping ministers or people who are in ministry to tell stories, to share what God has sent them to share, all of that good stuff. I'm also passionate about helping immigrants tell their stories, because, to be honest, many times, especially depending on what kind of country you come from, traditional publishers do not respect those stories, because, and you cannot blame them. They are thinking more in money terms. They're thinking, who can relate to this story? Not many Americans, not many people in London, not many people in Scotland, wherever you're now living. They're thinking, how many people can really relate with your story? It doesn't look real to them. So it might be a problem for them to take it. Or you want to tell certain stories, or you want to use certain language, you're using your voice and you want to be true to yourself. Their editors and other people who work with them cannot relate to what you're doing. That's very common. So I've seen people who I've worked with, because they worked with people like that, and their book came back to them and they couldn't recognize their books anymore. It looked like it came from somebody else. But you couldn't blame their, that's what they know. So I encourage immigrants to tell their stories. Um, your story, if you're an immigrant, you want to write a story, you want to write a book, you have parents who are immigrants, or you have parents who have like real like stories that you feel like they need to share. You want them to share about their lives. I help with that as well. Maybe your parents or somebody in your life is clocking 60, like some grand age that they're going to have a party or they want to celebrate, and you want to use a book to be part of that package of celebrating them. That's something I love to do as well.
So
So
somebody
yeah.
has a question for you.
I, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting this this question, but I will say, so to what he's talking about,
Yeah,
the writer's
give maybe
strike.
some context, because we're not. I have no idea what that's about.
Okay, so we have writers. Oh, look, what I would say is, we're all loving Netflix. We're all loving Hulu. We love Iroko TV and all of these wonderful things. Um, those stories stay in our head. I have to credit production, I credit directors, I credit all of that. But if you take the writer out of the story, you have nothing. That's the truth. Because we've all seen wonderfully directed, produced movies, but the script was rubbish. And we finished and we're like, what did I just watch? Did I spend 1 hour of my life I will never get back watching this thing? So we have writers now who are like striking because they're asking for, I guess, better benefits, and they're asking for better um, conditions that will allow them when they want to segue away from even writing. Because just to give, sorry, for people who don't really know about this, just to give more context, many times script writers go from script writing to directing to producing movies. Like, there are ways you grow, because people are hardly ever just writers their whole career. So now you're having writers say the conditions, we don't like them, we want better. And so there's a strike. That's the long and short of the story. There's a
Mm-hmm.
strike, and so companies are kind of having to choose what side they are on. It's a typical way people strike. And you're like, okay, who will support? Blah blah blah. So that's what's
And
happening. So that's
is
my
it
take.
here in the US or is that in a
No,
different
here
country?
in the U.S., here in the U.S.,
Okay.
I believe they were striking there was a strike in New York, like they were picketing in New York, I believe.
Okay.
My thoughts from an immigrant perspective is things are changing, especially in these AI times. If you can band together and fight for your rights, I beg you, do it because
That's the
you're
lawyer
going
in you speaking.
to. No, no, I have to be honest because the way we're going, people, it's so easy for people to just say, the writers don't want to write, no problem now. We'll just get Chat GPT, we'll just do it on Chat GPT. And then we, the consumers, are the ones that will have to be taking Chat GPT scripts and watching rubbish. Please, please let the writers who are talented, let them get what they deserve. That's what I have to say.
About stories, I want to ask you this question and how you navigated it.
Okay.
The issue about telling stories is the the shame part of it. And a lot of people have stories to tell.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of immigrants have stories to tell. The journey coming into the US, surviving, getting
Yeah.
papers, the ability to, overcome circumstances.
Yeah.
But there is an issue on shame and
Oh,
the ability to identify with your story, even though it's
yes.
powerful.
Yes.
Can you
Yes.
talk about what are ways that a
Yeah.
person can overcome the shame that is associated with their story? And I say shame because they consider it shame.
Jane.
How
Okay.
can they overcome that to put themselves in the limelight to share a story
Yeah.
for other
Okay.
people?
So I love that you asked that question because it's very dear to my heart. So there are two kinds of shame. This is in my opinion. There are two kinds of shame. There is the kind of shame that we teach children to keep them from doing bad things. Oh, you want to do this, then people will say you're not, maybe you have no manners, and then maybe you might not have any friends. If you need to act right, you need to behave yourself. You can't go fighting. There's that kind of shame. Oh, you can't steal, that's bad. No, you want to disgrace this whole family with thefts, you want to spoil our name. There's that kind of shame. And then there's the kind of shame that makes us step away from the things that will move our life forward because we're so worried about what people will say about us. But
We want to
actually,
hide.
we want to hide. And that's because we've not been taught to deal with other people's thoughts about what we're doing, which is, if you ask me, a bit unhealthy. You have to deal with the fact that some people won't like you, some people will disagree with you. When it comes to storytelling, as a book coach, there are people that call me and say, I have like 5 ideas, I have 6 ideas. And I start to say, okay, talk to me about this idea. Uh, and then we're like, okay, how about you shelve this idea for now? How about we merge these two ideas and make it this? Do you understand? But I always meet people who are a bit ashamed to tell stories, and I don't blame them. I've worked with somebody before that they were telling that person, don't tell this story. If you tell this story about this ailment that you had and how you handle it, you'll never get married. Nobody will marry you. Because if you even find someone to marry you, his family will know that you have it. There was just all of this behind it. But this is a something that she's probably going to live with her whole life and have to manage. So there's no hiding it anyway. So
Mhm.
sometimes, yeah, shame keeps people from telling their stories. But the best stories are the stories that shame would have otherwise kept them quiet. So
That's right.
I have someone
Absolutely.
I'm working with. He was an inmate, and now he's a speaker. He talks to everyone about his story. He has like this really inspiring story. And if he kept that story, so many people would suffer because now people who have family members in jail, people who have just come out and are thinking my life is over, all of that stuff. Not only is he able to inspire them, every time he goes to speak, he has a product that he can sell to increase his income and increase his credibility, not just income, but credibility. And he meets other people who are ashamed too and cannot say that they have kids in jail, and they go to him
Right.
and they're like, can we book time with you? Can we talk about how to help them, to help them settle back when they come out, and all of that. And his life has opened up because of what he does. So that's kind of where I stand on the issue of shame. If you feel so strongly about that shame, I think you might have to get counseling just to get over it. Because if let's even put your story aside, there will be other things in your life you're supposed to do that you decide that you won't do it because of that. So that's my
Right.
take.
And let me just, share for those who are watching, we have our next guest on the 11th of May. And the flyer is what you're looking at right now. She's Martine Carlaw. She was undocumented and she was stateless, and she's going to
Mm,
be on the show to share about her story, because we need to hear it, right?
yeah.
Of an undocumented immigrant who was stateless and had to fight for getting her paperwork in America and finding her voice. So mark your calendars, please. May 11th
Okay.
at 8
Mhm.
p.m. Central Standard Time, we'll be here. Now, Biodun, I love
Yeah.
the fact that you talked about working with people and telling them, let's merge the story. There might be somebody who's listening now and saying, I've been through divorce and I feel like my experience through this divorce needs to get into a book. Or
Yeah.
I faced this difficulty, or I overcame this hurdle, or I was able to, come up with something really crucial that I feel like my generation can benefit. If they want to put this into a book, what's the process and how can they work with you?
Okay. Thank you for asking that. So if when I'm working with people, we start off with more like a consulting session, and then I find out what they have, if they have anything, like what ideas do they have, what are their thoughts. Because yes, I'm a ghostwriter, so yes, I have worked with people who it could end up in legal issues because names, are mentioned against advice, and there's a lot of mess. Or divorces haven't been totally cleared, but they want to write about the divorce, but they're not divorced completely. You understand what I'm saying? You're a
Mm-hmm.
lawyer, so you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's all of that. So it always starts off with, a session, and we kind of see where the person is at, and then we'll go from there. Sometimes the person has like bits and pieces of a story already written, and then it's, let's see what we can do with this. And sometimes people come with manuscripts, like they feel like it's already written, and at that point we're like, okay, what do we have? What should we take out? So it's more like a developmental work with what they're doing. Yeah.
Tell us a bit about the Immigrant Life. That's what's on the banner that's scrolling at the bottom. That's your website. What is it about? And for those who are interested.
Okay, so when I moved here, I felt like we didn't really have we didn't really have platforms that celebrated our wins. It's almost like, okay, somebody became like you, Excel, who had to go all the way to South Korea to get your law degree, and then you moved here. Somebody just hears you're a lawyer and they're like, oh, a lawyer. They don't know how much went into that. Like, it's not a big deal to them, but it's
Hmm.
actually huge,
Right.
right? So I wanted somewhere where, we could celebrate our wins as immigrants, and it's a big deal to us. So maybe it's not a big deal to the typical person just going their way who's always lived in a first world country, but to people who that was not their background, it's a big deal. And not just it being a big deal, but also knowing, oh, okay, that person has that background. So when if my son says he wants to do something, I can always point out and say, oh, you know that lady, that's what she also did. Let's call her up. I know there's this lady in my church who's a bona fide scientist that I remember the first time that I found out, I was like so excited. I was like, wow, like a real person. It was so funny to me. That was a few years ago. And so when my son was like, oh, he loves science, he wants to be a scientist, I was like, quick. I quickly dragged him over to her. I was like, okay, here you go. So that's kind of what the immigrant life is supposed to be. It's supposed to highlight our wins. It's supposed to also highlight issues that we have that no one really talks about. So there's a blog portion, and that's majorly what it is right now. It's a blog.
Awesome. Well, guys, we are at time. If you have loved this time with Biodun, her story, talking about being in a long distance marriage, dealing with the pressure about what she had to be, either be a lawyer or, and having to make a decision about what she felt comfortable and what she'll be happy doing. She shared about, finding information as very critical and necessary, and also sharing your story because your experience is yours to tell. Your story is yours to tell. The influence that is behind your story, you would never know until you tell it. And
Yep.
so, for those that have that story, the way to reach her is www.immigrate.life. It's in the banner. You can see it there. If you have loved this moment or this time, please leave your comments of love. Immigrant Mom Community, we show love to our guest. Please share with her in the comment section what is it about today's session that you're taking with you. And for those that have a story, reach out to us so we can share your story as well. Beyond this is the couple few minutes for you to share your parting words of wisdom for any
Hmm.
immigrant mom that has resonated with your story, that you can share some words of wisdom with them.
Okay, so I was also going to add that you can reach me at www.biodun.com. That's also a way you can reach me. So what I will leave, what I want to leave everyone with is something I'm also doing. Thank you, Sai. Something I'm also doing. Practicing audacity. Um, I cannot count how many times I have run into people who are so audacious, and know very little. It is astounding. It is hilarious. But I can't even be mad at them because they are being audacious. They're putting themselves out there. They are standing up and saying, you know what, I can do this, or I'm willing to try. There's so much, there's all of us immigrant moms. There is something in all of us that we can do. We can close our eyes and do. If you're not sure about it, ask someone who's close to you. Poll your friends, poll people who know you a bit, even if it's your childhood friends. There's something in you that you can do. You have to reach in and say, you know what, I can do great things too. Nobody's better than me. I can do it too. So I would say, just if I have to leave you with a parting word, it will be practice audacity, practice growing your confidence. You can never be too confident, especially when you're not putting your trust in yourself. You just believe that you're here for a purpose. So I don't want to take all Excel's time. I just want to leave us with that. Yeah.
That's a really solid word. Practice audacity. And that's one that I'm going to take with me. Very powerful parting words, Bjorn. We have to practice audacity. A lot of the people that we meet every day that look like they know, but don't even know half of the things that we know, but they're so audacious, so confident that the world begins to acclaim them while we watch and we
Yes.
know that we
There
know
you go.
more. So
Mhm.
practice audacity. Do not be afraid. Practice audacity. Thank you so much. Nicole says practice audacity. Worship with Gladys, good time.
Thank you,
My
everyone.
darling husband says thanks very much, Biodun. Thank you for
Thank you.
watching, babe. Thank you, everyone, and stay tuned. We are going to be live again on Saturday. We're going to be live again on Saturday. We'll be live on Thursdays. A lot of thank yous are coming through. I just want to share
Thank
those
you,
with you.
everyone. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
from Mercy. Thank you from Nicole. Thank you so much, Biodun, for sharing your story with us. We really appreciate you. You can come however many times you want to.
Woo!
share your story.
Thank you so
We
much.
love having you. Well, guys, stay tuned until our next session. This has been the Immigrant Mom, and God bless you.
Unable to still go through this process.